a conversation with my sisters. So we are going to have a conversation with my sisters at this time about our club, Sir Optimist International in Jamaica. And we're going to talk a little bit about our brilliant past and our bright future. I'm Ellen Campbell-Grizzle, Federation Council Member to SIGBI, or Sir Optimist International of Great Britain and Ireland. That's our federation to which we belong. Optimist Carol Edwards, who is in charge for SIJK, which is called Sir Optimist International Jamaica Kingston, for publicity and promotions. We have current president of Sir Optimist International Jamaica Kingston, Maxine Wedderburn. And so Maxine actually now leads the club in Kingston at this point in time. To my far right, we have Federation Program Action Committee member Sonia Black, who is was also president of SIJK, which is the club that I was also a past president. In fact, I'm immediate past president at this point in time for the Kingston Club. And to my close to me is our Program Action Committee leader for the current club, Kingston Club, Sir Optimist, and Jenny Brown Mary. So that's the team that we're going to be talking with today. All eminent women in their own right, professional, retired and semi-retired, because we still have to earn while we retire. And all understanding, in terms of their own conviction and commitment to the Sir Optimist movement because of what it allows us to give back to society. Am I right, sister?
Absolutely.
Right. So, so that's who I'll be sharing the conversation with this morning. Sir Optimist International, Jamaica Kingston, 58 years. So we've been around since the dawn of Jamaica's independence, ladies, from 1962. The women of that time had the vision and just to say we need a all-women service club. And so the club was formed then with some eminent women that we'll mention some of them as we go through the conversation, but we are part of a wider international body that has over 7,000 members in 320 clubs in 29 countries. And Jamaica is one of those little dots, but we tell of us, so we have to make an outside contribution. That's what we believe in our own minds as Jamaicans. We believe that we can make a big contribution to the world, and we are very proud of the heritage that we have gained from these women who had a vision to start our club. So let's dig down a deep dive now into what we call our brilliant past and our bright future. And it's a good time because we're about to celebrate our charter luncheon. That we do in honor of our founder, named in honor of our founder, Stella Gregory, and International Day of the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls. That leads us into a celebration of 16 days of activism that ends on December 10th. So we are right at the start of that kind of focus on women and girls in terms of violence elimination and also human trafficking, which is a big area under that goal. And so it's a good time to have this conversation. So sisters, I'm going to turn to Sir Optimist Maxine to give us a little context as to this, when we started, who started us, who were these people, who were these wonderful women with the vision 58 years ago.
And it's just such a wonderful opportunity for us to tell others about our club, because something that has always impressed me, we're probably one of the few service clubs that we have a seat at the UN. We actually have a seat at the UN. And so we ensure that the voices of our women and girls are heard. All right, now, how did Sir Optimism come to Jamaica though? Why? How did it get here? Now, it was introduced to Jamaica by renowned social worker Stella Gregory. Stella Gregory, during her early years, I don't know if you ladies are aware of this, but she worked in the lands department in Jamaica here. And she was put in charge of the affairs of women in land settlement. So she was actually very active, working with women. So anyway, eventually she was promoted to the general supervisor in the lands department. So clearly doing a very good job, still working with women. But then a big turning point came in the history of this remarkable woman. And what was that? A new wind was rushing through the empire, and you won't even guess what it is. Hundreds of Jamaican and other Caribbean people were boarding the Empire Windrush, which we know all hear about, Windrush, right? And what were they going to do? They began a trek to colonize England in reverse, as Ms. Lou says. Okay, so she was among a group that was sent to England to do what? To help the women settle in England. Can you believe that? She was there, she had already had all this experience in Jamaica, and now she was sent to help the women settle, these migrants to settle. Man, she threw herself into this new work, visiting the migrants all over the United Kingdom. And it was during this phase of her journeys up and down in the United Kingdom that she came in touch with the Sir Optimus International Club, whom she promptly invited to launch this chapter in Jamaica in 1962. Isn't that just amazing?
Yes.
How that came about? All right, so Sir Optimus International came here to Jamaica, and so became the first all-female club in Jamaica, with a veritable who is who of the Jamaican ladies. All of these ladies, were real movers and shakers, as you will realize when I tell you who they were. They were movers and shakers in different fields. They were professionals, true professionals, and they cared deeply for the status of women in Jamaica. Our first president, in fact, was Mrs. Edna Manley. Right, the lady at the top. The high-profile Jamaicans were among our charter members from 1962, and these included educator, social worker, and women's rights advocate Amy Bailey, who I know we have heard much about. Fashion designer. So we moved from educator to fashion designer, Annie Mae Furtado. All you'll soon see spanning many different segments for people who could impact and motivate. Then we had Jamaica's first female resident magistrate, and we can guess who that is.
Sister Ina.
Still alive.
Still alive. 103.
Wow.
So Sister Ina Collymore Woodstock. Then there was educator and the first Jamaican to head the Jamaica Library Service, Joyce Robinson. Yes. And then outstanding teacher Mary Dawson, and social worker extraordinaire, our own Sybil Francis, who died recently this year. And then we still had two more, nursing educator and leader Julie Symes, and librarian and educator Norma SIGBI. So this was the August body who started. This was our charter members. Now they became advocates and doers, impacting the lives particularly of women and girls. Sometimes we have people who talk a lot but get nothing accomplished. Well, they sure got a lot accomplished.
Sometimes I reflect on what that was like, the dawn of a new nation.
Oh, yes.
And everybody trying to make the enthusiasm, everybody wanting to make a contribution to the country, and everybody wanting to just play a part. So the excitement of the birth of a new nation, and women trying to also weighing against this idea that women were just housewives.
Right, yes.
You know, and so the courage that it took for these women who clearly were part of the society, established,
Yes.
yet in their own right wanting to step forward and make their own contribution. I just think that it was so courageous and something that we do admire. And I think all of us in the club have that as part of our DNA now. Independent, strong women who, the challenge for us, because we are so strong, the challenge is really working together to get something done, because everybody has their own ideas and so on. But it's amazing that we have remained there for 58 years and still working together. And we'll get to the new generation of women who have joined us. I wanted to talk about a little bit about, as we go in to talk about what we have done, because our club is really about what have you done lately, according to Martin Luther King. What have you done lately is what we are about. And just to talk about our links in terms of the international part of our mandate, you know, and to talk a little bit also before we get to that about the structure of the Jamaican network. You know, I don't know, Sir Sonia, if you want to take that on, the 5 clubs and where they are and the national president that we have and so on, so people can understand a little bit more about how we have expanded since the one club in 1962.
Yes, we are really very proud that we are one of the few countries in the Caribbean that have a national association, and that is because we have 5 clubs. Just to identify them, we have Western, in addition to Kingston, we have Western,
Northern.
We have Northern, which is in the area of Linstead, Yorkton, and surrounding areas, right? And we have Mandeville, and we have Northern.
Mid-Eastern.
Mid-Eastern is Linstead.
Mid-Eastern.
Mid-Eastern is Linstead.
Yes.
We said that already.
Northern is
But
St.
Northern is St. Ann. Right. So those are the 5 clubs that we have presently operating. And the current president of the National Association is Mrs. Gaynor Downer. Right. So she is from Mid-Eastern. Yeah, she is from Mid-Eastern. Okay. So the clubs have quarterly meeting together as part of the National Association, and we really are very cohesive because we try to work together with the other clubs. You know, that is very important, because without all 5 clubs, then we cannot have a national association. So we work together to build our membership, work together to coordinate our programs and help each other out. So, you know, it's very important, the sort of relationships that we carry forward, because if we are about empowering women and girls, we have to live what we believe in, and we start by empowering each other to move forward.
So we have all experienced, as Sir Optimist Sonia speaks about, the joy of achievement, how we coach, and how every time somebody has a birthday, there's a national celebration among us on the WhatsApp. And people just celebrate each other and just enjoy each other, and we have good friendships, because Sir Optimism is about the best of sisters. And so although, and so we all try to make each other feel good, which is so important, you know, in COVID-19, and we all shut in and so on, and we really need to keep each other pumped from day to day. And in those early days when the ladies started and we built out Jamaica, then they decided that they were to be missionaries down the Caribbean. And our members, you can see in terms of the history, to the extent in which they helped to inspire the formation of other clubs in other Caribbean states. And so Jamaica was not only looking at, and you remember there was a movement across the Caribbean for this, what they call it. We became independent, but there was supposed to be one big federation. So they were like trying to build a SIGBI, our Optimist Federation, and we succeeded where the politics failed, basically, and set up a federation of clubs that is called the Optimist International Caribbean Network. That's now headquartered in Barbados, I think. Correct me, sister?
No, Anguilla.
Anguilla. The president is now in Anguilla because we have a roving, we have been roving presidents in different countries, get the presidency and so on. Not quite an orderly fashion. And then, of course, we are part of the SIGBI, which is the big federation, and then SIGBI is a part of Sir Optimist International, which is the global movement. So we're a highly structured and organized organization with a common ethos to enable, empower, and educate women and girls. That's the reason why we exist, you know, to make sure that women and girls have a voice. And we are linked into the United Nations. But beyond that, at the start, we were very, because you heard that we had an eminent jurist in our club, and powerful women. And so in the legislation that supported the good fortunes of women and girls. And I'm going to ask Serpents Maxine just to talk about the early foundational legislation that we advocated for, and some of it was actually passed into law.
Oh, yes.
So if you want to share that with us.
Okay, now this is really interesting, you know, because over the years, Sir Optimism in Jamaica has really significantly influenced policies and programs leading to advances in the status of women and children. Let me tell you about some of these. At the national level, the Kingston Club brought to the attention of government and the public the need for updating family laws, particularly those relating to the status of children and compulsory registration of fathers. You know what, that's an issue which has come up time and again, renewed attention. But I'm sure this one may surprise some of you, even though we have all heard it said. The club also lent its voice to advocacy efforts to ensure that the Women's Desk, which was established by the state in 1974, became upgraded to a Bureau of Women's Affairs.
Yes.
That's the very genesis of the Bureau of Women's Affairs.
They started advocating for the desk in the first place, and once it was in place, then they didn't stop pushing until it was upgraded to the Bureau.
And that's in other words, the Sir Optimist. Yes. I hope the Bureau of Women's Affairs are aware of this, I'm not sure they are. All right.
And should involve us more in their activities.
Well, they're part of the group.
We've also been adding our voice to the fight against things like human trafficking in recent years, since my time.
Before you leave the past, I want to interject. I remember our conversation with Sister Ina when she spoke about this. A lot of the work was done through the civic committee of the Sir Optimist Club. And I remember the story that they noticed that the young boys used to leave school in order to go and pick up the star in order to sell. And so they were missing school, and when they questioned them, they realized what was happening. There was an economic need. The parents were sending them to collect the papers, and so the committee met with the cleaner company and asked them not to put out the star too early, so that they would the children would remain in school and they would not be missing their valuable education. So it was agreed, and the star didn't come out until after school was finished. So that, so part of it was just observing what was happening around us and to come up with real good suggestions.
Absolutely. Ears to the ground and proactive. Just wonderful. Wonderful, man. And in recent times now, we have added our voice, since 2011, to the fight against human trafficking in Jamaica.
Yes.
We had a forum at UTEC, we had our big billboard, we had our walk. That was a
100 woman walk.
That's right. And now in 2020, we have added our voice to the development of a sexual harassment bill, which is still ongoing. So we hope we can become even more active and be greater advocates with that when the discussion really gets underway.
Thank you, Maxine, for that. I mean, really, really rich part of the discussion. Some of it, quite frankly, sitting here, I didn't know. But we are alive, so we are learning. As long as you're alive, if you're not learning, you're really not alive. As long as you're alive, you're learning. Yes. So let's move on to what we call is the heart of Sir Optimism, which is our program action. And where, as we say, the rubber meets the road in terms of the real service that we do. And we breathe life into our goals that are in sync with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17. We focus probably on 9, which I have listed as poverty, no hunger, health and well-being, quality education, gender equity, reduced inequality, decent work and economic growth, climate action, which is our tree planting project, and the partnership for the goals. That means we work with different clubs, like the Kiwanis Club of North St. Andrew, that we work with in order to put on the health fairs that we do. And Sir Optimus Eugene is going to talk about the health fair in a little while as we delve into that. And we have, because it's the heart of the Sir Optimism, I really want to get a deep dive into our programs. We want to know what they are, that we are doing now, who we are helping, because it's about helping people, and who are the women and girls, and sometimes the boys that we help. So talk about early childhood, for example, Dr. Eugenie.
So as you have heard, there are many areas that we focus on in our program action. And early childhood is one of the areas where we want to talk a little bit about. From as way back as 1976, the Sir Optimus Club of Kingston, Jamaica, Kingston, took under its wings the basic school at the Shortwood United Church. It is now called the Shortwood United Church Early Childhood Development Center. We have continued our relationship with this school since that time, which is, we're talking about 44 years, right? And I usually speak about this very proudly, because what it really shows is that we didn't just say adopt them and leave them alone, but we have maintained this kind of relationship with them. We have assisted them over the years in developing their school in different ways. Since I wasn't as far back as 76, but I know of us giving to them computers to upgrade their school so that the students would have this resource to work with. We have, over the years, provided financial support for them so that this could help to pay teachers over the summer months when the government did not cover those teachers because they were not on their payroll, if you want to put it like that. We also have this close relationship with them, where whatever activities they are having each year, we are part of it. So their graduation, there's always someone present, participating and making presentation of awards. In the last 10 years or so, we have introduced the Pet Lewis's Award for exemplary achievement, and this is really something that they look forward to, and they get a big grant as well. We also have members who sit on their board, the school board. So the liaisons to the school are on the school board, and so we participate in whatever they are, seeking to do. We've done fundraisers with them, so all kinds of activities. Recently, they wanted to have their building look, a little better. The roof needed to be done, and even though we did not go in and do it because they got another sponsor for it at that time, but it was something that we were considering. How could we assist them to improve, to put a roof in so the students would be in this very hot environment. We participate in Parents Month. So like this month of November, we try to go in, have maybe a seminar with the parents and continue to work with them to help them to improve. Hey, and I was forgetting, COVID-19 came this year. COVID-19 came this year, and we said, what can we do to help them? The parents in particular, because see, now the students can't go to school. Everybody is affected by COVID. And so we wanted to find out how were the parents and children doing in this COVID time. And so I made inquiries and found out that, the parents could probably benefit from some care packages. And so we came back, discussed it, and we worked with Lasco Foundation. And they were willing to supplement what we had. And so we got 30 lovely, huge bags of, food items. Yes. Oats,
rice,
cooking oil, milk, canned products,
and even fruits.
Yes. A mixture of things that we know that the children would benefit from here at home, and that could help with the general care, of the children.
It's very important when we say this that sometimes when we talk about surrectomism and that surrectomism is a women's club, we don't emphasize enough that we really support the family. Yes, because we believe that when the women do well, the family does well.
Yes.
So we advocate for women, but it is in the context of national development that relies on a stable family and families improving and continue to enrich each other.
Right. I want Maxine to interject because she did her little study. While we were distributing these packages, and share what you learned.
This was amazing. When I interviewed those 30 families, it turned out that there were 4 to 5 other persons in the household that would be impacted by this. And many of those persons had lost their jobs or reduced hours or less hustling, because some of them just hustle. You understand? So they were in need. The children were going to be affected nutritionally. So not only did we assist 30 children, but we probably assisted 150 persons.
or more persons.
Yes. And remember when they got those packages, we have a clip of it where one woman said, "Boy, it's so heavy, she didn't the way full, It was wonderful. They were really so grateful for it.
Yes.
And even though I can speak more about what has happened in the last 7 years, before that time, another member and past president, Dr. Judith Curlew, had worked with the Kiwanis in Red Hills, to have annual health fairs. However, 7 years ago, that puts us at 2013, I think, or 2014, we staged a health fair at the School of Oral Health Sciences, or College of Oral Health Sciences on Arthurwind, because they were big collaborators with us. So they provided the space, and because they have a dental school, that became one of the major services that was provided to the beneficiaries as well. So this 7-year trek has been excitement. Every year it is big excitement. I tell you, we all just throw ourselves into it, and I get so super excited here.
And the fact that it really falls at the time that we
it coincides
International
with International Women's Day.
So it's part of...
So all of these shirts were done for the last health fair. So we, the Seroptimists, collaborate with the college, with the Kiwanis Club of North St. Andrew,
National Health Fund,
Chase
Fund,
and
a whole set of them.
for the Poor, College of Health Sciences, UTEC, and a lot of other sponsors and partners
private sector
who just come and who give their service for free on that day.
So thanks Dr. Eugenie, because I keep on calling her Dr. Eugenie, but
just say Eugenie.
We are Eugenie. Sorry, Miss Eugenie. Because, and I'm going to leave out National Children's Home, because we have been with them longer than anything else. And a lot of the recent contribution to them was giving
tablets
and earphones. So this the children, because of they're learning online and they didn't have access to them. That we actually donated that. It was a big initiative of one of our vice president and the Indian community in Jamaica, and through her they actually donated quite a bit of money and quite a bit of lab
purchase.
So I didn't want to leave that out as part of the program action. And there's a lot more, but we want to go to the future. We really do want to go to this bright future that we see, because we all agree we need to get new members pumped up about the club and get them in. We want the name of Seroptimists to be distinct in the marketplace, so that people don't forget Seroptimists, Best of Sisters, because they mix us up with other clubs. I was going to say the name, and we want to talk on the COVID-19 challenges and how are we going to, as a club that is quite tactile in that service, we with the children and we visit them and we're out there in the field. Now can't do so much of it now under COVID-19. So with that in the future, and understanding that we are Jamaicans, and we are a real force of nature, and we are going to get things done, and that we are Seroptimists, and we press forward with dignity. We don't kind of get ahead of our skis and excite ourselves, but we really quietly do the work. And that's something I like about Seroptimism now, because it's not a kind of show club. It's about sisters quietly. You don't want to be praised for what you do. And maybe that's Carol need to talk about why is it that we are so staid and laid back. But it's really the call of service with quiet dignity, which distinguishes us from other service clubs. We want to reimagine our club 25 years from now, and we still have a mandate to serve wherever we are planted. So each sister at the table is to share in 2 minutes, where do you see us as Seroptimists in the next couple of years? We've always been very laid back and stayed in terms of our promotion. Some things you hear that we can't make money off of it because it's not a club rule and so on. And so we're projecting now 25 years from now, Seroptimist Carol, how do you see the publicity and promotion which you currently head for the Kingston Club?
There's a perception in the society, I think, that the Seroptimists are older persons, that they're not so much in touch with what young people want. And we as a group have to find a way to get beyond that. Part of it, of course, means engaging more in the use of social media, because that is where people are. And especially in these COVID times, where people are distant, we have to find a way to insert ourselves into the conversations that people are having. It's not so much about saying to them, here we are, we're a wonderful group of women, we're doing all these great things. We have to find out, first of all, what are they interested in, what are they talking about, and then finding ways to insert ourselves into those conversations so that in conversing with them, we bring them around to the values that we have and the aims, the objectives that we have for our future. And I think this is so very important. We also have to take more public positions on things that are taking place in the society. We've been speaking about human trafficking. We're speaking about violence against women. But there are lots of other groups that are doing the same thing. How are we going to ensure that we stand out? These are the kinds of discussions I think that we should be having among ourselves so that we adopt a position and we consistently put that position forward wherever we are. But in making those positions known, we say to them, we are doing this as optimists. You know, I join your conversation, I come to your club, I go to your church, I speak about something that the church might be interested in or the Kiwanis Club might be interested in, but I'm doing this as a seroptimist. We tend to be very, we're nice, decent ladies and we're not going to shout. You know, we're not going to push our position in people's faces. But we're living in a world where everybody is shouting. Now that is not to say that we're to become loud and obnoxious.
Definitely not.
But we have to find a way to insert ourselves into everyday conversations.
We thank Seroptimist Carol for that very useful projection and her thinking around publicity promotion, in which an area in which she's an actual, in real world, an expert. So, she knows what she's talking about. Seroptimist Sonia, your 2 minutes.
I'm mindful that all that we do, we need to consider and look at where the future from a strategic point of view. And we have started a strategic thinking. We currently have a strategic plan that goes up to 2021. That's something that we need to start revising because so many things have changed. The fact that COVID has happened, we are really in a new dispensation. And the truth is that whilst we are in this pandemic situation, we see the dark side of it, but there's also a bright side because there are things that we never thought of. We have been plunged into the technology, whether we want it or not. Many of our members have had to learn how to come online with Zoom and so on. So there are so many possibilities. The truth is that we have a further reach.
Yes.
We do not have to limit ourselves to Kingston and St. Andrew for one thing.
Yeah.
We also do not need to limit ourselves to Jamaica. We now have members joining us from overseas, and therefore we have persons who are interested. So we can really, and as chair of membership, I'm taking note of that because we are going to be pushing the boundaries and to get persons who are willing to contribute. They may not be ready to become members, but that doesn't prevent them from sharing in our objectives and our goals and assisting where they can. The other thing that I am mindful of, and this came out of the conference, the Belfast Conference, international conference that we were a part of, that projects don't have to be big things. We have some big plans, but there are also some little things that we can do. So when I am mindful of the other sisters, the other clubs, on the little things that they did when COVID set in, when they reached out to children who could not afford internet connectivity, and they paid for internet for children who are doing CAPE and CSEC. There are also little things like just praying for children who were disturbed. So out of this, we can make an impact by all of the little initiatives. They make a big impact overall. And therefore, for the future, we need to concentrate on two pillars: the programs and the membership, and recognize that it is through awareness, advocacy, action, and contribution to service that we are able to transform ourselves and push forward.
Thank you very much for those wise words, sir. I'm not in church. How are we going to do provide care for people virtually? How are we going to do that?
Interesting. One of the things I have learned since COVID is that it is, as Sonia said, it's not all bad. I have seen where COVID has opened, the pandemic has opened up a lot of opportunities for people in all spheres of life. And so when I think about some of the opportunities, I think of how almost every single thing that we used to do face-to-face, you can now convert it to some virtual activity. So we have continued, in my profession, we've continued to have all of our conferences and seminars and workshops, all of them online. And you don't seem to miss much, if anything. In fact, they are bigger and better because more persons are able to join. As it relates to health, where can we take our activities? Now that we are saying social distance, you don't need to go mix up with everybody close up front anymore. People are looking at areas of e-health. And so if you think about e-health, you can now think of how persons can see their physicians by staying wherever they are and, meet their physician online. And he can do what you need to do for assessing or determining what's wrong with the person, and then prescribing. And they can get their medications. Once we stay within the legal framework, they can get their medications as well. It can be delivered to them and some other means. And so I'm thinking the health fair. We can't bring 300 persons together at Arthurway Drive anymore. But we could have our setup so that if the physicians want to come in a central place, they could and be social distanced. And we have things arranged so that our patients can meet them virtually and they can determine what needs to be done for them, what kind of services they need. And I'm seeing how we can arrange to have them scheduled to come, the ones that do need a face-to-face intervention, that they could come in and have that done. So we can have things arranged so you can still see the 15 or however many persons and they can come to location. Okay, so if we embrace the e-health aspect of it, whereas we used to ask the physicians to come on site and see the patients, now somebody wherever in Jamaica could agree to participate and they could see those patients through the virtual means. So telemedicine is what we're talking about here. So through telemedicine they can actually see those patients and make their diagnoses. COVID is gone. I would have become more creative, more innovative at how I can do things.
Right. And to continue talking about the health fair, when you speak about the telemedicine, there are some doctors who really would like to participate, but because of distance, they would not have been able. So the fact that you're thinking of going that way, we have a greater reach. And so we could have more persons and set up a sort of way that they can either log in, call in, and have that meeting. But we don't have to stop there in terms of the medical part of it. Remember, we always have persons speaking on wellness and so on. We can do podcasts, right? We can decide if all of it is going to be done on one day, or we determine how to release these and who our audience is. But having these done and package them and to disseminate it, I really think we have.
I had that down here, education activities, forums, seminars.
Yes.
Great, so moving right along.
What an exciting time. You know, I really find that COVID, it's not a world without borders. We can do anything. It's wonderful. And the matter of the podcast, after our health fair, the last one, which was very successful, I interviewed a number of the callback months later, you know, and I didn't have to prompt them too much. I said, remember I spoke to, yes man, yes. But the big thing was not the care, the attention they got, but the things they learned from the talks, from just having all these various services there. They didn't know they could have this and this and this, and that they needed them, and that they then told the brother and the sister and the auntie and everybody that you need to do this and you mustn't do. So I am saying now, podcast great, but if we could have an Instagram page too, or one account, and have our little things going, just updating them, so we don't have to wait for the health fair time. The thing of just getting more into the digital age, and so, and annually, as you will be aware, I mean, we commemorate our chartering at the end of November each year, and we symbolically honor an outstanding lady. Okay, and this, so we have had various really high-profile people. You know, the list is just a who's who. But this year, we are actually going to be honoring this CMO who has done such an outstanding job with this COVID. Dr. Jacqueline Mackenzie. So in March we'll be doing that presentation. But that's another way of just commemorating our being and our founder, Stella Gregory. So there's that Stella Gregory Award that is issued each year. And something else of it.
It is really very, it's really very timely because of the fact that the pandemic has got such an impact and health is at the forefront. So for us to honor the chief medical officer that has been doing such a great job and she's a female. Representing the health services and the fact that she's a female as well really is something significant.
Absolutely. And something else too, President Elena, that we have to take note of is this planting of trees. Because next year is Sir Optimus International centenary year, and a big project for them is a brilliant future with trees. So we in Jamaica will be planting 100 trees. And some of it will go towards establishing a park at the Jamaica National Children's Zoo. Of course, you know, trees bring serenity and calm and emotional health and everything. And food, because the trees we will be planting are food trees. June plum and apple and all those things, even breadfruit and ackee. So we have all of that coming up, you know. And then it's going to move into the establishment of a recreational park for those children in state care. So now their emotional health gets help. We can go and mentor them there. You know, we'll have swings and jungle gym and all of that there. And we're already getting offers to help with the funding of it. Right. So and they're looking forward to it greatly.
So we have a lot of food for thought on our bright future, and we have the determination to get it done. We are also thinking about a project economic empowerment project for rural St. Andrew, and seeking now funding and grant funding to get that going, to upskilling and training in collaboration. Is it the Methodist Church?
Yes.
Maxie?
Yes.
The Methodist Church. They will house it, and we will be providing the inputs. So the women in that rural part of St. Andrew will actually be getting some help once we can get the funding. And that's something that we need to say in our future. The partnership is important because we are not individually wealthy women. So it is the resources that we bring and our ability to attract grants and funding and projects that really help us to sustain, whether a big or a large project. We need to have the partnerships under the UN goal there. That partnership part is very important and meaningful to us. So we've had a wonderful discussion this morning.
Indeed.
It has been rich, it has been informative, and of course, as always, I enjoy my time with my sisters.
That's something that we
COVID has rocked.
This is the first since quite a while, since about March.
That we're actually together.
Just the AGM in April was virtual.
Right.
We really have prepared I would call this now a digital documentary about the brilliant past and of course the bright future that we are anticipating even after we are gone. Because we are not working for today, we are actually working for the next generation.
And we really should speak about the young people who have joined us.
Yes.
We are not here today because of the fact that we have to be few in numbers, but we have quite a few
who have
young
recently stepped up.
Stepped up.
Yes,
because we want to be able to hand over to these persons, you know.
We have to become like the Chinese. We have to think in terms of hundreds of generations ahead.
Yes.
And you know, we kind of, sometimes in Jamaica, we can be have a short timeline. And we also, hold in our hearts, for Soroptimism in Jamaica, we are equally committed to this thing about quiet determination and modesty in service. It's not we don't have a kind of a loud approach to it. I know Carol was saying that we need to get a little louder, pump it up a little bit. But
that's part of the strategy, not to be loud, because you will intimidate those you serve.
Yes, and there are some people who want to come and serve.
We don't want to, that's not our style.
Yes.
We want to be able to really rejoice with persons who we have to empower, but we don't want to expose them to it.
Yes. Some people don't even want to be known that the fact that they have contributed to things. And we have to respect that. So ladies, we're going to wrap it up. I just want to thank you all for really joining in this important dialogue as we try to talk about our past and we put our future in perspective, always in the hands of the Father, the Heavenly Father who guides everything that we do. So we also trust in Him, and we are committed to the ideals of Soroptimism, and we do all we can to promote, uphold and defend these ideas for larger fellowship in home, in society, in business, for country and for God. What good.